Hey, Alex.
Hey folks, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining
Absolutely.
us.
And I want to re-highlight again that both of our launches this week and our demos this week that are live are for things that launched this week at AWS. Our HG launched a little earlier this week as well, and Alex and the FSX team had the pleasure of launching this work here at New York Summit. For those who didn't know, that was yesterday. So Gigi is double dutying here, fresh off going to the New York Summit. And just one other note is what I like, my obsession of tying things together here. But like, to me, latency manifests itself as performance. So if you reduce the amount of latency that's out there, you accomplish a task faster. So both here, we're really talking about two items here together that will help improve overall performance. Just very different, of course, as well. So without having said that, excuse me. Yeah, exactly. Without further ado, Alex, why don't you introduce yourself and give us a word or two about FSX and the specific feature here?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Zach. So my name's Alex. I'm a product manager at AWS. I lead products for Amazon FSX for OpenZFS. I'm based in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm actually in New York right now for the summit this week. And let me talk a little bit about Amazon FSX. So Amazon FSX is a fully managed file system service. So the FS in FSX is for file system, and the X is for your choice of file system. So we actually have four different file systems.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I just figured someone named it that because it made sense.
Yeah, it's a little buggy, X is a variable, and so your choice
is a variable. And it's a variable.
Even we hosts learn something every week. Well, I'll also point out just randomly, and I didn't know this until you just said you're normally based in Salt Lake City. I just will shout out to Utah, I guess, today, because both of our demo folks, even though Alex is currently in New York, Tyler is also based in Utah. So we've got two, I don't know, Utahians, the right thing, or Utes? Wait, maybe it's new one? I don't know.
Sure. Love that. Thank you to the state of Utah to provide our demos today. Is that what you meant to say?
That's it.
I want to know in the chat if anyone watching currently uses Amazon FSX and which of the X's you use with your file server or of the file server options. But now, so you did have a launch this week, Alex. We're going to make you flashback to launch day and tell us all the trauma you had from launching during a summit. But first, could you tell us, what exactly is the new feature and where were we and where are we now with this feature launch?
Yeah, sure. So let me start by explaining what Amazon FSX for OpenZFS is specifically.
Okay.
So OpenZFS is one of those options. The other options are Lustre, NetApp ONTAP, and Windows. And so FSX OpenZFS is one of those four offerings. And specifically, customers use FSX OpenZFS for its price performance and for some of the capabilities that we get from the OpenZFS file system. OpenZFS is an open source file system used by customers on premises as well to store tens of exabytes of data. And OpenZFS has these capabilities for data management that are built in. And we, through FSX, provide fully managed versions of those capabilities. So things like snapshots to take a sort of point-in-time version of your data, and clones to be able to kind of fork that data, and also to be able to send data between different file systems. So that's FSX for OpenZFS. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you're Alex, a customer out there that has been using OpenZFS before, you could leverage OpenZFS on Amazon FSX and simply be able to use a fully managed service from Amazon to be able to get that launching, similar to other fully managed services that Amazon has out there. But this kind of, I think in our effort, Gigi, to simplify things, this occurs to me to be something to help simplify your effort to be able to launch here.
That's right. Definitely some of our customers are coming from on-premises where they were already using ZFS-based file systems. And so that makes it really easy for them to use the same thing in the cloud. But we also have customers who are coming from other open source file systems, other commercial file system offerings. And one of the things that's attractive about OpenZFS is because it is an open source file system, it means there's no licensing fees. And because we're on FSX, we're using the latest AWS infrastructure, we're able to provide the best balance of price and performance. And so we also get customers who weren't using OpenZFS before, but they do adopt it in the cloud.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So shall I get onto
Yes.
what we're launching?
Let's talk about it.
This will be easiest if I share a couple diagrams just to help me talk through it. So
Great.
Before this week, we had two different ways that you could deploy an FSX OpenZFS file system. The first of these was Single-AZ, and with Single-AZ, you would get one file server in one availability zone. You pick which availability zone of an AWS region that you want your file system in, and that would be attached. That file server will be attached to a set of disks with your data replicated across those disks. And so one of the benefits of it all being in one availability zone is that you get the lowest latencies. So you can get sub-millisecond latencies, both for reads and for writes. And also, because we're keeping that infrastructure there to a minimum, this is the lowest cost way of deploying FSX OpenZFS.
Got it.
So we also had another way that you could deploy a file system, which is multi-AZ. And with multi-AZ, you have that primary server and that set of disks replicated in two availability zones. And so the data will be replicated within each of those availability zones on that same set of disks, like with Single-AZ. But then you've got this additional replication between those two file servers across the availability zones. And so what this means is that because there's these two file servers and they're both always up to date, if one of those file servers goes down for some reason, there are hardware failures happen. And so if there's a hardware failure on that primary server, then the standby server can pick up serving the file system. Any clients that are connected to the file system stay connected and continue reading and writing from the file system. And so it gives you that high availability, including even if there is some widespread event that affects a whole availability zone, your file system would still stay online. And crucially, your data stays durable because all of that data is being replicated at all times across those availability zones. So that makes this really good for production workloads, mission critical workloads where you need to have that file system stay available and stay durable.
And I think this is, this is also in alignment with kind of the AWS best practices. So for those who have looked at, for those that have looked at some of those best practices, one of those practices is making sure that you are durable enough to use multiple availability zones, and the like as well. So this, I think, is a great, this addition of the feature also helps people with that additional flexibility here. So I think it's time to get to a demo here as well to Alex to demonstrate.
I think we have. Is there one more slide?
There is
one more slide. All right, you've done this already today.
I'm sorry.
Jumping the gun here. So
twice
so you showed Single-AZ and then you showed the dual AZ. Yeah, cheese art in the chat. So this is what's new, which is the Single-AZ, but you actually have two servers, a standby and a primary, and the same AZ that you choose all goes to the same disks.
All goes to the same disks. And so like with those multi-AZ file systems, you've got those two servers. So if one of them goes down for whatever reason, the other one picks up the connections from the clients that are connected to that file system. And so you still get that high availability. But the difference here is that number one, you've only got that one set of disks. And number two, this is all in one availability zone. And so that means a couple of things. One is because you've only got the one set of disks and we're not sending data between availability zones, the costs are lower, and so for customers, this is a cheaper option than multi-AZ. And that's specifically relevant for the customers who don't need to have that resiliency to a potential availability zone failure. They don't need to have their data replicated across those availability zones. And that could be because this is data that already exists somewhere else. And this is a downstream copy of that data. So maybe this is for analytics, and that data is coming from some other database, and you're just copying it here. And so if you did lose your file system, then it would be okay. You could recreate that data by copying from that upstream database again. Or maybe another alternative is you have a workload where you are this sort of spin up, spin down. You're spinning up this compute cluster, and it's writing some temporary data to the file system and processing that data, and then it finishes. And so that data is only really that temporary data. And if you lost a file system, it wouldn't be the end of the world. You could just start that particular job again.
And that's interesting, tying to what Art said, where, normally AWS is saying, we're multi-AZ. If you really need, you can do multi-region, but multi-AZ often fits your needs. In this situation, we're designing kind of a split down the middle. You're not necessarily doing the cheapest option, which is just one server, one set of disks, and one AZ. And you're not doing a multi-AZ because you just don't need the durability. You're splitting the difference. Got it. And I'm eager to see the demo as well, Art. So we can.
No, I was going to just say to just follow up. Yeah, I was just going to follow up my other comment, but you kind of said the same thing already. This helps increase and improve that availability that you have. That prevents you against having a data loss here, which is part of that. Our kind of our model of trying to get folks to make sure that you have that some level of durability here. So I like this as that option as well for folks, especially if you're really price constrained as well. And I think this is also a response directly to customers that have asked us for this. And this shows once again, our responsiveness to the customer feedback. Excuse me.
We have a few minutes left. Can we see the demo?
Yes, we certainly can. So let me switch over to the console. And so I'm going to go and create a Single-AZ HA file system. So I can just search for FSX in this search bar. And so we can see I've already got a couple of file systems. I'll create a new file system. Here are those 4 different options that I talked about, the different file system options. We'll select FSX for OpenZFS. And then we have a couple of different ways you can create a file system, the quick create and the standard create. The quick create, there's really not a lot that you have to do. You can choose here between the multi-AZ HA and the single-AZ HA. In the standard create, we have a bunch more options that you can choose. It's all optional, including that option to have the non-HA file system. If you're confident that you don't need to have your file system be available 24/7, then that is an option. And so, I'll just go ahead and create a file system. I'm just going to create one that's just 64 gigabytes. That's the smallest file system that we have. And just a couple of clicks, and then that will create my file system. That normally takes around 7 or 8 minutes. And then once it's available, it'll look like this and show as available.
Got it.
Well,
that's pretty simple too.
Yeah, this is super simple, but I don't know that we're going to be able to have enough time to, in the 7 or 8 minutes, to be able to see it change to the green available. But I'm going to trust you, since one, you have 2 other that, named one I made earlier as well. So I'm going to go with that it'll work as well. So, and I think this is, as Gigi mentioned, super simple here. And Alex, and I want to thank you for coming out today to talk about this. Are there any other key attributes that people should know about about this new feature? I was going to say availability zone, which is only part of what you've done here. But
there is one thing I would like to show really quickly, which is how you would migrate from a non-HA file system to an HA file system if you're already using OpenZFS. I saw your segment earlier and the fastest migration ever. I think I can at least get close to that.
Oh,
It is really easy. So I have a non-HA file system here. I can click into my file system. And I mentioned that concept of snapshots that ZFS has. So I have my volumes here. So this is my file system that I am presenting to my clients that connect to my file system. And I can take this action here to create a snapshot. And what that's going to do is that's going to create sort of like a version of my data. And so if I go to snapshots here, you can see that snap that I just created. It is pretty quick, but I've got one I made earlier here. And so one of the things that you can do with FSx OpenZFS is send a snapshot from one FSx OpenZFS file system to another file system. So I'm going to select this snapshot, and I'm going to say I want to copy it and create a volume. And then I'm going to select that other file system that I just created, and I'll choose this volume. And then let me just call this the target. And this will take all of my data from that old file system and send it over to the new file system that I just created. So yeah, pretty easy for any customers who already have OpenZFS file systems, want to start using Single-AZ HA. Very easy for them to migrate over.
That's awesome. Thank you for creating the battle or the duel of migrations today. This show would be nothing without both of you.
I love how fast both of these things were today. Yeah. And I kind of mind blown a little bit about the ability here to just simply be able to copy the file system over and reuse it in another one. I think the applicability of that to many of our customers is quite high. To be able to get going to use some of your existing data as a starting point. So, Alex, I want to thank you for coming out here and talking about this new feature. It's always exciting to talk about new features, Gigi, when we get going here.
Thank you, and congratulations on your launch this week. That is no small deal at all, and it's really awesome to have you share it week up. It's really exciting.
Thank you very much, folks.